stingy, some kind of a add-on for the work to be done, the humanity kind of thing. Certainly, money will also. I think you can. A lot of people. Particularly, Punit Misra is the chair of Bangalore IEEE section.
Okay.
You can
Yeah.
see and you can interact with him at that place, and they also from people like you, and he is fair at Bangalore. I am here. He is at Bangalore. They are doing excellent. In fact, they have done recently HTC conference. They are outstanding for entire world. They could get one or two times. So they got. There are nearly 1,200 sections across the country, across the world, and 59 sections across Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific is Singapore, Australia, Japan, India, Pakistan, Russia. These are area. There are
Okay.
59
Yeah.
sections are there in 12 sections in India. Ours is the 12th section, the smallest section. In fact, in
Yeah.
basically working hard, working with a team of people, nearly 20 to 25 active volunteers are there with us. We are really doing. I feel that job here we have a site. We have we have done kind of a works for the training for science centers for the for elementary schools to teachers who train them how to get to we took the breadboards and etc. To the schools and trained them, conducted some orientation programs to see that every student will incline towards science and technology. We
Yeah.
went to the tribal areas to educate them for the benefits what they get through technical education. These are the things, activities we do for the humanity also besides invited. Unfortunately, to this year, we do a lot of many programs in face to face because of COVID situation. But still, we are keeping our volunteers busy and they are doing very good job. There is no doubt on that. But fortunately, one advantage also through COVID is that people like you, if we ask you to come to from Bangalore to Visakhapatnam and give a talk for 1 hour, you may be not inclined many times, or may not be inclined also because a lot of time is wasted in travel, accommodation, connectivity, flight connectivity, etc. But because of the COVID situation, most of the events what were conducted on a web kind of webinars. Fortunately, we could get Kasturi
Yeah.
Ranjan, we had a talk. We have a talk of L.M. Patnaik from University of Science, Bangalore. Maybe you are aware. A lot of people of very FIs, fellows, Padma Sris, etc. We could get to give it to us, and our volunteers are benefited in that. Fortunately, we have a good for no problem for us, and we help also from you in future also, not today.
Sure, for sure.
This area typically what happens, what is the topic you have chosen? I really saw that today. Everybody is eager to basically jump into this kind of area without some kind of a initial working. That means they don't do homework. What
Yeah.
they want is kind of maybe you are
Yeah.
maybe also noticed this kind of observations of many people who really does not do homework. That is
Yes.
exactly needed. I feel that we will educate our students on that direction also.
Sure, definitely. Yes.
Over to Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Sir, I'm waiting. Yeah. Sir, our register joined. I welcome register Dr. Dinesh Shankar Reddy from MIT Ahmedabad.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. We'll go ahead, sir. Dr. Lakshmi Narayan, sir. I think by the time it and all will.
You
I
can
think
go ahead, no issues. People
yes,
will join little late, no problem.
yes, yes.
By the
Yeah.
time it
By
starts, the people will come. Go ahead.
okay. Yeah. So very good evening to all of you. This is Sandeep, Chair IEEE PELS Power Electronics Society and Industrial Application and Power and Energy Joint Chapter Societies under IEEE Vizag Bay section. I formally welcome all the dignitaries and then participants of this today's program. on finance for startups. Okay, actually, this is an initiative that we have taken up for entrepreneurship and innovation in electric vehicle sector. And actually, under this domain, we would like to conduct some kind of a series of lectures which would benefit the student community, particularly towards campus startups in the various emerging areas. Example like electric vehicles and ML and AL based any application domains and all. And actually, also we will look. We're also concentrating how we can help the student community in the next stages for any kind of necessary assistant and training to come up with any startup ideas in their campuses, particularly in engineering colleges and all. And also we would like to concentrate on the long-term internship for the students, actually, so that we will motivate them and train them in a particular domain, so that they will become some kind of expert in the during their graduation itself. Okay. So with this motto, we have discussed with some of the very good friends from the Bangalore. Okay, and they have come forwarded, and they would like to train the student community in this direction. So in this way, we have arranged these three talks, and first talk today on the by Mr. Nashima Murthy on the topic finance for startup. Tomorrow also we have another topic on the significant developments, innovations in the EV sector, and last day tomorrow, day after tomorrow, entrepreneurship and innovation, actually. And with this introduction, I'm starting this session, and I request now Dr. Lakshmi Narayana, Chair, IEEE Vizag Bay section, to give his opening remarks. Thank you.
Good evening, Narsimurthy Garu, Sandeep, and I think Chakravarti and other dignitaries. Good evening, Dr. Narsimurthy Garu, Sandeep, Chakravarti, and other Ashwini and other people on the line. This topic, what Narsimurthy Garu was really planning to speak, is a very, very interesting. That is directly a core subject. But what exactly we need to see is that many of us will come with an idea that I want to start up a kind of entrepreneurship for that. Though we have a technical knowledge, and this is little techno-economical kind of a thing where our technology really can be sold outside. Suppose today, if you item which is not been for example, if you see a old item, nobody will buy. For the market, visibility of the market, why the startup requirement for the society, what is the entrepreneurship. Fortunately, unfortunately, I think many of the startups will not see third year or fourth year. The reason is that really, if the startup is good, the promoters who really started the project, either they sell the project to another entrepreneur or they leave it and go for a job, etc. Therefore, we need to really see these are the kind of difficulties what we are facing in today's India. I hope that Narsimurthy Garu will really brief and inform to all of the people who really interested in do that. And many of some of them are really teachers and lecturers or professors are there in the board. Therefore, they will certainly take back the same thing from Narsimurthy Garu and give the same thing to their students, so that it will be a chain process. Many people will really benefit. And I hope that Narsimurthy Garu will come again to us and give a talk on the second level of talk, if somebody really responded positively for the next course of action. Thank you very much, Garu. Thank you, Sandeep.
Okay.
Go
Yeah.
over to Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And also, I am glad to inform all the participants. And this program is, jointly organizing by IEEE chapter, our chapter, and NIT Andhra Pradesh. So now I would like to welcome the Dr. Dinesh Shankar Reddy, the registrar, NIT Andhra Pradesh, to give his opening remarks. Sir, I think your voice is breaking, sir. I'm sorry.
Is it okay?
Now it is okay, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is okay, sir. Yeah. Now it is okay, sir. You can proceed. Sorry, sir. Actually, again, it's breaking.
Oh. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Is the
Okay, sir. Now it is okay. Okay. We can. Yes, sir. Sir. Sir, actually, I'm sorry again. It's not okay, sir. Actually, voice is not coming. I think there is some network issue. Okay. Okay, sir. Maybe you can try to log in maybe later. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We'll proceed, sir. Okay. Maybe at the end, maybe you can give your remarks. No issue, sir. Yeah. Is it okay, sir? Hello.
hello, yeah,
Okay.
please, Sandeep.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay. Okay. Then now, yeah, sir will join at the end, and now we'll proceed to next one. Now I request Dr. Ashwin, treasurer of our IEEE joint chapter, to give introduction about the today's speaker.
So good evening, sir. Sir, is it audible?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. So good evening and hearty welcome to the today's resource person, MG Narsimhamurthy, Chief Financial Officer, Makani Group. Narsimhamurthy MG is a professionally qualified chartered accountant and company secretary. He has over 17 years of experience in the field of finance, accounting, taxation, treasury, audits, budgeting, and management reporting. He has handled many startups in the initial stages in business plan preparation, funding strategy, and in the initial setup of operations. Narasimha, in his 17 years of experience, has worked in many companies. He began his career in Sasken Communication as a CS management trainee, then moved to SAB Miller India and Healthcare Global Enterprises Limited. He worked in Airbus India for 12 years from 2008 to 2020 before moving to his present position of CFO of Makani Group of companies since February 2020. So thank you very much, Lakshmi Narayana sir and Sandeep sir, for giving the opportunity to introduce the guest. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Now we can start your session, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Narsimhamurthy, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, one and all. I mean, am I audible actually, Dr. Sandeep?
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir.
It's clear. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sandeep and Dr. Lakshmi Narayana and Dr. Dinesh Reddy, the chair of, from NIT. And thank you for the introduction, Ashwini. Is that Ashwini that who introduced? I guess so it is.
Yes.
So I'll just, and also thanks also to my friend Sanjeev, I guess he's there on the call, for bringing me here to talk to the engineering students to talk about finance for startups. Finance as such, as you all know, is a very important field. And when we all used to do our chartered accountancy or company secretaryship, we were taught, and it was the first thing what we learn is the finance is the lifeblood of an organization. You know, without money, nothing can move in this world. And I think you all will agree that finance is an important aspect of starting anything and running any business. So with that brief introduction, what I will do is I'll just share my presentation. I have prepared some about 10 slides to give an overview of what all the aspects that a startup should consider, or an engineering students or a couple of students who come together to form a startup to take forward their idea. What are the main aspects that they should consider? I mean, if they don't have any finance background, or if in the family, if they don't have anyone who has done any business, and if the students are just without any background of business, they want to get into, to start a business, and what are the aspects that they should consider, in important aspects of finance they should consider, is what I'm trying to cover. Whatever I thought is good from a student perspective, or from a person who starts a new business, from that perspective I have covered. Post my presentation, if there are any questions, definitely I can answer. If I know that, then and there I will answer, other later on. Otherwise, one can mail me and I can definitely send a reply. So I'll start sharing my presentation for today. Can you all see?
Yes, sir.
Is it visible? The presentation is in full screen?
Yes, visible, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so I will try to just minimize this box. Yeah. So this is Finance for Startups from me. Before that, just a small brief introduction about our group. It is Machani Group and not Makhani Group. Makhani Group is a Bangalore-based 80-year-old business group. It's a family-run business group. Traditionally, the main flagship business is the Machani family runs this business, and the flagship business is spring manufacturing. I mean, if in a car, if you see the shock absorber, that is a spring that is there in a car. So that is the business of Machani Group. That's their flagship business. It was started by one Mr. Somappa Machani way back in 1960s, and he's a Padma Shri awardee. In fact, his roots are in Andhra Pradesh, to say, but he migrated to Bangalore and started this business of spring manufacturing. He's from Yamignur in Andhra Pradesh, actually. So I have joined this group as CFO from February 2020. And this group, recently, we have diversified into various other businesses like real estate and new age technology businesses like augmented reality, virtual reality, and robotics. And as a matter of big coincidence, we are also in EV business, electrical vehicle business. We also have a startup within the Machani Group where we are working on some electrical vehicle space in the form of manufacturing some batteries and motors, and we would eventually do our own car or retrofit some buses to have a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. This is our aim that we have. So with that brief background about Machani Groups, I would start. This is my first slide where I'm just trying to show the agenda for the day, where I want to cover, would like to throw some light on when you do a startup, how do you set up? What is the legal structuring one should do? And once you decide on the legal structuring, what is the next important aspect in terms of business plan? And once you have done your business plan, the sources of finance. I mean, how do you fund your startup? I would talk on that. And then once you decide on source of finance, what are the funding stages that a startup can have? And what exactly is the fundraising process for a startup? And I would like to also throw some aspects of taxation of startups here, just to give, this is not supposed to be an expert tax opinion thing. There's some elementary tax things one should definitely consider for a startup, which will help in conservation of fund and also, optimal planning of fund and cash for the startup. And finally, next I would talk on exit strategy. For an investor who comes, we should also definitely give an exit and some registrations what a startup should have. And eventually I would conclude, and thereafter we can do a question and answer thing for the day. So going to the next slide. So to begin with, I would say that we should, anybody who wants to start a business, one of the main important aspect is the setup itself, the legal structuring that they have to decide at the very initial stage of doing any startup. This is so here I have listed what are the various types of entities that one can have. It is proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership, company, and within the company you can have a private company and a public company. So I think in India we are all very well aware of about proprietorship and partnership. The proprietorship is a single person business. It does not require any registration. Anyone who has a PAN number and if they are coming under some GST threshold limits, by acquiring GST registration, they can just get started with the business. Proprietorship is just a small business where one single person would like to do, and it is not for scaling up. So this is not good for a startup, but here I've just listed just to give what are all the type of legal entities one can think of. A partnership is the next level of an entity where two or more people can come together and start a business in terms of by way of a partnership. But this partnership is has got its own limitations in terms of the number of people that partners, the maximum number of partners a partnership can have is only 50 people. It can be started with 2 people, and the other important aspect is in the case of a partnership, the liability of partners is unlimited. That means when they do a business, in the business, if they incur losses and if they have taken loans and debt, the liability of partners extends to their personal assets as well. So that is one of the disadvantages of partnership. So that's why for a startup, proprietorship and partnership are not good. And also from a perspective of raising funds for their business, these two forms of legal entities are not a preferred option. The third one is the limited liability partnership. This is a recent phenomenon in India. Recent in the sense it's there for about 12 years now. The Limited Liability Partnership Act was passed by Government of India in 2008, called a Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. So this form of legal entity is a blend of partnership with some sort of company overlap that is there by way of limiting the liability of partners to their business assets. This, I don't know if the kind of background, the engineering students, you all, whether you during your curriculum, do you study some sort of business finance or legal structuring or legal entity kind of concepts? Is there a subject in your curriculum or not? But liability, limited liability is a very important aspect when you start a business. When you do a business, if the liability is not limited, for whatever loans that you take, when the business is in trouble, the creditors will have access to your personal funds, even to the extent of your house and other things, and then they can put it for sale to recover their dues. So that's why this concept of limited liability has come into play in the business for a very long time. Earlier, it was only in the form of company, but this limited liability partnership was very prevalent in Western countries. In India also, from the last 10 years, this aspect is there. Limited liability partnership, you can get started with 2 partners, and there is no limit. Surprisingly, there is no limit on the maximum number of partners that one can have. And you can do any trade, profession, or other business in a limited liability partnership. The next form of organization that can be done is a private company and a public company. So let me come to a private company. A private company, first of all, a company is an organization or a legal entity that can be brought into existence under the Companies Act. In India, the relevant legislation for this is the Companies Act 2013. So one can incorporate a company for any legal business purpose with minimum 2 shareholders. A private company can be done with minimum 2 shareholders, and the maximum number of people who shareholders or persons who can come together to form a private company is 200 under the Indian Companies Act. This is what I say is that is an irony that under the LLP, they don't limit any maximum number of partners, while in a private company it's 200. And a private company with some restrictions, it can raise funds from from various people for the business purposes, except from public. That is the main distinction between a private company and a public company. A public company will be able to raise funds from the public, that is by way of an IPO, through an initial public offering, and list their securities on a stock market. So where their shares become freely tradable and they will have access to wider market. So this legal structuring, I personally consider as a very important aspect for any person who wants to do a startup. The reason being, when you do a startup, when you want to raise funds, what type of legal entity you have becomes very important from fundraising perspective, and also from a taxation perspective. And to an extent, sometimes when you raise loans from the banks. So for a startup, if you are intending to raise funds, generally what I have seen in the business circle is that people do not, venture capitalists, high net worth individuals, angel investors, they do not put money in the 1, 2, 3 legal forms. They would prefer to have funds in the form of funds in a private company, where you can get something called shares for the money that you put. In a limited liability partnership and a partnership, you get a share of a partnership firm by way of an agreement. So that way, they don't prefer that they get a share. It is something personal actually. So that's why wherever the scale of business is very limited, the up to LLP is good. But if you are intending to raise funds from angel investors and subsequently from public, the company form of organization is good for fundraising perspective. So this is the aspect that I wanted to emphasize on the legal structuring. And now let me move on to my the next slide. The second the second most important aspect in terms of when you do a startup is to consider the business plan. I have called it as business plan in my slide here, but it can be called as a project plan, or even what is the idea actually. So the 4 main aspects a business plan or a project plan or a startup project plan should consider is, first itself is the project plan itself. Secondly, it should have a promoter background, a financial plan, and we should also have a very clear end use of funds, what a startup would like to raise. So a project plan, if you see on the image here, I borrowed it from a Google search. This gave a very good sense of what should a project plan should have. A person, a group of people who want to do a startup should devote sufficient time to make a very good document. I mean, to say that either in terms of a PPT or a hard copy business document, where they would detail their idea of the startup. So here, right, you have on the left-hand side in the image, you have various words: goals, work strategy, analysis, operations, team, marketing, SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities and threats, financial plan, timeline, mission, vision, success, product description, and all that. So these are the essential aspects, of course, a project plan should cover. Unless the promoter, I mean, the persons who float a startup, if they are themselves not clear about their project, no one would be interested in funding their project. So it is very important that a very good, concise, very good, detailed, and a clear project plan is prepared before one goes into, starting their business. This gives clarity of thought as to what is the idea actually. So they should in the project plan elaborate what is the idea that is with which they are coming up with, or the problem statement which they want to solve, and what is the solution. Is it a product or a service? What solution is being provided to the public and how it will be beneficial to them? What is the market that they want to address with their business plan? And what is the competitor landscape that is there? Are there any persons who are already in the market who are doing in the similar space? Suppose if you have come up with an idea of doing an app for a pharmacy related matter, there are already some players that are there. So in relation to competition, what is the your positioning? What is the unique thing that you are doing? And what is the timeline within which, beginning from the idea stage to commercialization of the idea, what is the timeline that one is looking at? And how exactly it is being planned to be executed. These are the various aspects one should cover in a project plan. And next, in the same document, one would it would be better to cover the promoter background. Suppose if two of you are engineering students after your graduation come up and get started, it is good to give your background and who are the advisors or the universities or some sort of incubators who are backing you, because no one would like to put their money with people who have no experience actually. Finally, everybody wants security of money, and people would put money for some returns. So no one will stake their money unless you give a very good background of your educational qualification, whether you have any experience in this field. Is it a new one? Are there any advisors backing you? Are there any universities, incubators, or accelerators that is backing your idea, and what stage? And what is your own clarity of thought of doing this business? So the background about oneself is very important. The next aspect I would say is to prepare a very good financial plan. Financial plan here, what I mean is that in terms of the idea or what has been translated into a product or service, when is that you would do a commercialization of the project? When will the revenues kick in? So generally the financial plan would be, ideally earlier people used to do about a 5-year plan from the start of their idea stage to business stage to commercialization and eventual growth. Given the current situation, I think people say that no one is very clear beyond 3 years how the outside world, the external environment works. So a minimum a 3-year plan is required, where the financial plan would cover before the revenues kick in, what are all the requirements of money that the business startup has in terms of funding their asset purchase. That in the next point I would cover that. So the financial plan should give a detailed planning of what are the funds required and what for. And a financial plan would here mean generally preparing a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement, and a cash flow statement, which also covers some sort of ratio analysis, various ratio analysis. What is the means of finance that is planned to be taken? First of all, so before that, the project cost, I mean, in terms of for the startup to commercialize their idea into a service or a product, what is the project cost that they expect to have incur? And what is the means of financing, either in terms of equity or debt or a combination of both? And the cash flow statement for 3 to 5 years. A good financial plan is a very good start to raise money. Unless we ourselves are clear, the startup promoters are very clear about what for they need money for, they cannot go out and seek funds. Here, I would say any startup promoter should take help of a good finance professional to prepare this. Or in the market, there are various people who are available, either a big 4 firm or a mid-sized chartered accountancy firm, or some merchant banking firms are available. If you don't know how to do this, they are available for a fee to make it, and your ideas they will translate into a project plan and a financial plan. So I would urge that if you are going to start up your own startup after your educational qualification or university degree, don't undermine this the need to prepare a very good project plan with a good financial plan. That is the first step to go and seek funds. One of the main aspects which I have seen in my experience is that people don't provide the end use of funds what they seek to raise from anyone, actually. So we should be very clear about what for we are asking the money for. So I have listed here that one are a few aspects of what are all the purposes one can seek funds for. One can seek funds for working capital, that is to do the day-to-day running of business in terms of paying salaries to the staff, rentals, your telecommunication expenses, your day-to-day stationery, and all these kind of things comes under the ambit of working capital. Your purchase of raw material, and the stock that you require if you are doing a manufacturing activity. All of this will come under working capital. You might require funds for asset purchase. So you should clearly state what assets you want to purchase in terms of computers and some software licenses and all other things that what for you need the money for. Then if you are in the manufacturing space, you might require some machinery or plant to be put to commercialize your product. So we should specifically state what kind of machinery we need, what is the estimated money required to, fund it. So that has to be clearly spelled out in the business plan. And you might require money for sales and marketing. You can do a great product, and if you don't do a proper sales and marketing plan, today's world, in the digital era, you should have digital marketing, you should have physical, you should have print marketing, you should have marketing thing on the TV, you should have marketing bliss put out to successfully commercialize. So it requires a lot of money. So sales and marketing is an important aspect once the product or service is ready to be launched, to be considered and to be considered in the financial plan for funds, for the end user funds that is sought to be raised. And there are other reasons also for which one can raise money, or they may require money. When they do a startup, maybe they have taken a small loan from a friend or this thing, so money might be required for repayment of loan and various other purposes. All of these aspects should come out very clearly in the business plan, and this I would emphasize. This is a very important aspect of at the time of doing a startup, when at the initial stage, before you go into commercialize your idea or into a product or a service. So I do a brief pause here. Are you all able to listen? Because it's total silence. I don't know whether I'm just doing a talk or.
No.
It's clear, no? My voice is coming clear and
Yes, very
visible.
clear.
Yeah. Okay. So then I'll go ahead. This is in terms of business plan, where I would say is the most important aspect. What I have seen in my experience of working with some startups, that they underestimate the requirement in terms of making a very good project plan or a business plan encompassing all these aspects. A good project plan or a business plan which encompasses all these aspects gives a very good confidence measure to an investor who puts money, because with the promoter people are themselves very clear about what their thought process in their mind. It is itself a very good confidence building measure, when you go for fundraising. Moving on, in terms of once you have decided on your legal structuring and you've prepared your plan in terms of a business plan and a financial plan, that's when you go and when your business is up and running, when you have started the business, so you need money now to move forward. So what are the various sources of finance that one can look for and how to raise it? This is what I would like to just emphasize and cover here. The first and the foremost is that you should have your own funds. No one will put, even a bank will not put money unless you put your own money into the business. One, this shows the seriousness with which you would want to do a startup or a business. And this is also called as own contribution or promoter's contribution, typically in the business parlance, that is to be put. So you will have to raise some money, some savings of your own to do a startup. It could be as low as a lakh of rupees to a 10 lakh rupees or up to a 50 lakh rupees, depending on your financial strength that you have. If you are a student just coming out of college, you can put at least a lakh of rupees to start your own company. That is the minimum capital that is required. And subsequently, you will have to figure out how to, from your own savings or within your family and friends. The second point is family and friends. You raise some money from the family and friends. This is where the importance of business plan and a financial plan comes into play. You will have to estimate what is your project cost up to a certain stage of running the business, and put your own funds till the time, because no one will put money in a very new business and a new idea, and people will be very skeptical to put a large amount of money in this. That's where you will come in your own startup with your own funds. Of course, you can raise money from your family and friends by way of issue of shares to them. This is where the legal structuring will come into play, and the maximum number of people from whom you can take money, either in a company or LLP. That's when it becomes very important. Suppose if you have floated a private limited company, you can issue shares only to 200 people. And if you have a requirement of 50 lakh rupees, so each of them you have to issue about 100,000 rupees, or about 500,000 rupees to raise a 50 lakh rupees. So that's when the legal structuring also is important when you come to raising money here. So family and friends, you can either raise by way of issue of equity shares, or by way of issuing debentures, or by way of taking loan from them. So once you have put your own funds, you can also, sorry for the typo in terms of numbering here. I'll just stand corrected on that. The next thing what is there is you can raise debt. Debt here means loan. In the simple parlance, it is loan. So loan you can do from bank. You can also issue debentures. That's also a loan instrument which is given to public or to family and friends, and loan from others. The loan you can also take loan not only from bank, from NBFCs and friends, family, anyone who is ready to lend you money. That is where you can take. The fourth point is the other source of money. This is numbering is 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can go for a venture capital fund, or a venture capital company or a private equity company to raise funds. These come at the later stage. In the next slide, I would cover what are the various stages of funding for a startup. So you can go to a VC or a private equity. We can also see whether any kind of government grants are available. Nowadays, government handholds a lot of startups. Government here, when I say government, it also covers universities. It also covers your various institutions that fund startups. So there are a lot of incubators and accelerators that are available. Suppose, for example, in Karnataka, there is a startup initiative where for any startup, if they are pitched, every year they hold an event, and if you go and pitch your idea, and if they're convinced about your idea and its commercialization and its usefulness in the state, they fund up to 15 lakh rupees. And throughout the world, there are various these kind of institutions, government of India things, and sometimes some worldwide events which fund ideas. So one can make use of this government grants and similar things. For example, just to give an example from my own experience, a friend of mine had come up with a startup idea of manufacturing methanol from carbon dioxide, and they pitched their idea in an X Prize event in US, and they won the second prize, and the prize money itself was about 5 crore rupees. So one can do these kind of things also under the heading government grants. Not to undermine the other aspects, having said about government grants, the next is a lease and hire purchase. If your startup requires a lot of assets to be purchased, one can definitely consider lease financing as an option where there is no much upfront payment of money and you pay as you earn in terms of lease rentals. So that is also a very good financing option. And the last but not the least, I would say is also supplier finance. So when you start a business and if you have a very good negotiating skill, and one should really explore this option is if your business requires, if your startup requires a big machinery costing a couple of crore of rupees, you can negotiate with your supplier to do a supplier finance in the sense that you don't have to go to a bank loan or take a loan from a bank to fund that purchase of asset. You can ask the supplier himself to give credit. And many a times, many of the manufacturers are more than eager to do supplier finance, where they themselves will provide you a lease financing mechanism, and you pay lease rental over a period of time, and then you can own the machine subsequently. The other option, which is very much in play in the medical field and various other capital intensive asset purchase thing, is that you can do a revenue sharing supplier finance, where the supplier will just give the equipment that you need, machinery that you need at absolutely free of cost. And once they are convinced with your business plan, they will give their machinery at free of cost and put it in your place of business, and you use that machinery, and whatever you revenues you generate, there is a revenue sharing mechanism through which either they will take 25% and leave 75% to you, or similar such percentages, and then they will recover their cost of machinery plus their profit margin over a period of time, either 5 years, 6 years, by way of a revenue sharing mechanism. So these are the various sources of finance that a startup can explore. There are a lot of pros and cons in each one of them. If you raise equity, the cost of equity is very high. People expect a minimum of 20% return for the equity investment what they have made. However, if you come to a debt or a loan instrument to raise money, no bank or no individual will give you money without a collateral. That means without a security. So the security comes into play. So it is very important for a startup to use judiciously a mix of financing mechanism to start and fund their idea into commercialize their product or service. The means of finance becomes very important, because tomorrow the scalability of your business depends on also what type of financing you have raised. While a debt will entail a constant payment of interest and EMI in terms of loan repayment, the principal repayment. Equity, if you raise equity, it does not have any repayment, but the returns that the equity investors expect is very high. In terms of that, the cost of equity is very high. So one should consider the various sources of finance. Of course, if you are coming from an engineering background, all this planning has to be done very judiciously. I would sincerely urge that you take a help of a good finance professional, or you employ a very good finance professional in your startup company at an early stage, so that these kind of things are planned very well. The source of finance, what you select, also has a very big impact. Suppose let's assume that your startup becomes very extremely successful. In finance parlance, we call it as leverage effect. The money that what you raise, there should be a good amount of leverage. The leverage it's a mix of equity and debt. That will maximize your returns, because the debt, the interest on debt is tax deductible, and that increases the return to the shareholders. So a very good judicious decision needs to be taken when one decides on the source of their finance and the combination of this. So I would urge that one should give a very good thought into deciding on their source of finance, from whom they take money, and in what combinations of it. Of course, also equity comes with its own thing. Suppose if you give more than required equity to some external people, even friends and family, tomorrow they tend to control your business, and eventually they may even take over that business also if the business is successful. So all these aspects would have to be considered when you do a decision on source of finance. Moving on, here I try to cover startups funding stages, the various stages that a startup goes through. This is not a original slide of mine. This I have borrowed it from Google by googling it. This chart gave a very good depiction of the various stages of funding that a startup can undergo. So that's why I borrowed it from Google and I put it here. So let me go to explain the various stages of. On the x-axis, you see the stage of investment that a startup can, the various stages at which a startup requires money in terms of concept, research, business planning, product development, first commercial, fully commercial, expansion, and then further growth. And in the y-axis, you should know what is the amount of money that at each stage you require. This is where the aspect of a very good business plan will come into play. Initially, you should have a very good business plan where you are clear as a startup promoter what amount of money that you require at what stage. So that's a seed stage is the first stage where you have an idea and you get started with your idea to work on that, to do research, how to commercialize it, how to start the business, the initial funding that is required. Generally, at seed stage, you have to put your own funds. So that's where the sources of finance will come. So if you're at the seed stage, which if you have just started your startup, you have to put your own funds and you have to work with your family and friends, to put the money. Typically, this ranges, depending on your startup, it ranges from 10 lakh to a crore of rupees also, actually. I have seen a startup where I have been as their financial advisor who have put their own money up to a crore of rupees. And I'm also today an advisor to a startup where they have put 10 lakh rupees of their own money and then they are seeking money from angel investors. So the seed stage comes at the initial concept, idea stage, and floating of the entity stage. You are doing some research, how your product, how to exactly execute your idea into a successful business product or service. You're doing a business plan. That time you require money to fund your idea and to work upon your plan. That is what is the seed stage. The next is angel investors. This is where you already have an idea, you worked upon it for some time. Now you need money to go into the development phase of the product. Typically, you will here acquire raw material. You will work on prototypes, and these are various marketing plans that you want to develop. These are the purposes for which you will require money, wherein you can go and seek money from angel investors. Typically, the angel investors are high net worth individuals who would bet their money on a new idea and expect very high returns. So if they are convinced with your business plan, what you have already made, and if they are convinced that they can make good money by way of exiting in 3 to 5 years, these kind of angel investors, they bet money. There are a lot of high net worth individuals who are ready to put money in the range of 50 lakhs to 3 crore rupees. That's where the ticket size of angel investors come. There is no single specified range, but this is the average range what one can see in market. For example, a startup, I have a startup who are into making into a pillow actually, and where I'm just working with them, and they are now raising 50 lakh rupees from a high net worth individual. So this is the range. Having themselves put 10 lakh rupees, they have put 10 lakh rupees of their own money. They have come up to some stage, and they launch their product in a crowdsourcing platform, and then they received about 30 lakh rupees. And now they've gone to an angel investors. They have prepared their business plan, they made the pitch deck, and then he was convinced and he's putting 50 lakh rupees. So typically angel investors, any high net worth individual, are a successful earlier who has done a startup and who has made money and who has been successful. Those kind of people, they put money at this stage. And if they're convinced about your product, with a ticket size of 50 lakh to 3 crore average. But the next stage is when where you are already there as established yourself as a startup, you have the product or service is running. Now you have to go on to the early stages of ramping up your business. This is a combination of group of individuals who will come at early stage and angel investors who will put money, typically ranging from up to $1 million, actually, up to about 10 crores. It's a combination of people, or even some large players can come into play here, either in terms of some private VC funds also could come at early stage funding. One has to do a search in the market as to who are all there in the field in which you are trying to seek money, actually. So there are various funds, various people. Some people fund only ideas which are in FMCG space. For example, in electrical vehicle space, I don't know, some people, only a few funds concentrate on electrical vehicle space. I know some people, some high net worth individuals, because we are in the space of augmented reality and virtual reality. There are some IT entrepreneurs who have made money in their successful business, who put only money in the space of augmented reality and virtual reality. And prior to that, I was knowing a startup where they are in agri space. They are a startup who purchase produce from the farmer directly and sell directly in the end market, consumer market, to vegetable stores and supermarkets. That startup has raised money, and there are only people who put in agri space. So one has to do a search as to which is the right fund or people who will put money at early stage. Typically, early stage also is up to $1 million of funding. Once your business has successfully come, probably you must have seen in various newspapers, on the business channels, that if you typically open a business newspaper in terms of Economic Times or Business Standard, anything, you will have a startup page where they will say that this startup has raised Series A funding of this much, Series B, Series C. This ABC is just different stages. Actually, there is no typical definition that I found. If you go on the internet, they define in terms of threshold limits and who are the people who put. It is just different stages of funding. So once you come to a Series A, that means you are a business who are already established with certain track record. You have revenues coming in, and you need money now to go to the next level of taking the business to the next level. So typically, the money that is required at this stage is about $1 million to $15 million, and traditionally, venture capital firms are the ones who fund at this stage $1 million to a $15 million. So if you approach a venture capital company at a seed stage, they will not fund. In fact, in my experience, where I was working with a startup as a freelance advisor to them, we went to a venture capital firm or a private equity firm. They said that their ticket size is minimum $15 million to $30 million. So they refused to fund, and they said that you come up to this stage and then come to us. We are happy with your idea, but we are not funding in, at the stage at where you are. So therefore it becomes very important that you take step by step in funding your startup and come into Series A, B, C. These are later stages, and mezzanine is a hybrid product of debt which gets converted into equity later. So you raise high amount of debt which converts into a ownership capital later. That is what is mezzanine funding. Typically, Series A is in the range of $1 to $15 million. Series B is about $15 to $15 million, and Series C is where you are a successful business. You require additional funding to go into various markets throughout India, worldwide. You want to venture into newer areas. You want to diversify your product line. where you require in excess of $100 million. That is where you go into Series C, and afterwards, generally, there is no D and E. It could be possible that you can have a D and E. These are all just the nomenclature for various stages of funding. Once typically you finish Series C, you go into an IPO mode. If you want to still, expand your business and you want to fund, and if your business is not generating enough money for expansion, you can go for an initial public offering and raise money from the public. That's about the various stages of startup funding that one can possibly think of. Of course, the timeline for this is anywhere between 1 to 10 years. So a startup which is at seed stage, can go up to Series A in 3 to 5 years. We have seen this in Bangalore very much in the various, startups that have come up. Moving on, just to be in the interest of time, I think it's about 7 o'clock we are reaching. So herein I've covered what is the fundraising process that takes place and the timeline that is there. This is also a slide which I borrowed from the internet, which is giving a very good depiction. The clarity is not there, but it is a very good depiction of what is the exact process of raising money. So you will have to have your project plan. Once you are ready with your project plan, that's where the business plan, the important aspect of making a very good business plan comes into play. You go to various people, these kind of the people whom I showed in the previous slide. You go to them and pitch your idea and business plan, and you will have various iterations, sessions with the people who are ready to invest, either angel investors or a venture capital firm or a high net worth individual. So you do your presentation to them. They'll have question and answers on your business plan. They'll have a lot of questions. They will ask about commercialization, marketing plan, all of that. So there is various iterations that take place. And once they are convinced with your business plan and idea and about the requirement of money and its usage, that's when you go to the next stage here, where they will do a due diligence on your startup. And then once the due diligence process is through, they would come up with their letter of intent, or typically what we call as term sheet. A term sheet, if you have reached a term sheet stage, that means you are in the process of receiving money. So the term sheet is where they will clearly state that they are okay to invest in your company. This is the money that they will invest. These are the tranches. Whoever invests money, of course, in your startup, suppose if they agree to invest ₹1 crore, they will not give it in one go. They will give it in tranches. Those all aspects is what that will be covered in a term sheet. Next is closing. Closing is in terms of actual funding. So from term sheet stage to closing, again, it will take some time. You will have to execute a lot of shareholders agreement and other agreements with the investor, because once the investor has put money, he will either take a board position or he will put covenants. What we call as covenants are generally called as terms and conditions in your legal entity, where he will start controlling, he or she or the entity will start controlling your activity. So you should be very conscious that you cannot raise money and you can just play around with the money. They will literally control your day-to-day operations. For any major decisions, you will have to go back to them, and they will monitor the end use of funds what you have raised from them. So that's where is the closing, and then you get the money. Typically, this takes, if you see here, 3 to 6 months, and then once you have the money and you go into implementation stage, that's where you use the money in your business, to increase your revenues, expand, and go for further opportunities. That is the next stage of funding. And finally, the exit, either in terms of someone acquiring you, or you're doing a management buyout or an IPO. This is a typical fundraising process for a startup. This whole process, in some form of modification, it will apply for every stage of funding, unless it's your own fund where you just put with no process. Anyone outsider putting money in your startup, either in terms of angel funding, that what we saw earlier, or subsequent Series A, B, C venture capital funding will typically undergo this process. So don't underestimate the time that is required. It is not as if you want money and you talk to somebody, they're convinced that tomorrow, next Monday, they're ready to with their check to you. It doesn't happen like that. It takes time. So you'll have to plan. If you're starting a business and you want to go, you will have to plan all these timelines of raising money. It will involve a lot of compliances and other steps. So it is very important that you plan your timelines for fundraising and undergoing that process. Moving on, I thought some elementary tax thing that I would cover for a startup. Taxation is very important for a startup to be considered. And all of the aspects which I listed out in terms of legal structuring and business planning becomes very important even from a tax perspective. The tax also is important because tax eventually involves cash outgo. You'll have to pay tax if you don't properly plan your taxes. And sometimes it could be very heavy, actually, the taxes. And it will involve a cash outflow and it will impact your fund and cash planning. So in terms of if you're a startup, you get a tax exemption under the Income Tax Act under Section 80 IAC. If it is too technical, I just leave it at that. You will have to take help of a practicing chartered accountant to plan your tax planning for the startup. So generally, the startups, they get tax exemption provided they are a LLP or a company. So only a startup which is incorporated as a limited liability partnership or a company, they get a tax exemption for about 3 years out of 7 years. So here also, a startup promoter should be very conscious. The initial 3-4 years, they may not make any profit. So there is no point in opting for the tax holiday for the first 3-4 years. That is, when you make profits in the subsequent years, 4 to 7 years, you can opt for tax holiday under the Income Tax Act, and so that you conserve cash and do very good tax planning. For a startup to get tax exemption, you should be registered with DPIIT, they say, under the Income Tax Act, the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. All of these are, today done in one window called Startup India. There's a website Government of India has started. I'm covering some registration aspects also in the last slide. So this is very important that startup entrepreneurs should consider when they do a startup, so that they get very good tax benefit. The second aspect which in the market you always keep hearing is when it comes to in relation to startup is an angel tax. What is an angel tax? Angel tax came up, to stop high net worth individuals from money laundering, by way of putting money in an angel in a startup and try to do some tax evading and other money laundering aspects. An angel tax is tax that is levied under the Income Tax Act on a startup. Suppose you are a startup and you issue shares of a face value of 10 rupees at a premium of, let's say, 100 rupees. And when you issue shares to your investor, your 10 rupees share based on your stage of business is valued. That is called the concept called fair value. Suppose it is valued at 50 rupees. I've given an example. Let me go to that slide and then come back here. This is where I have given an example of an angel tax. Suppose if your face value is 10 rupees, you see the situation 4, and if your issue price is 40 rupees, and that means your investor is investing in you at 40 rupees, and the fair value of share on the day of investment is 31 rupees based on your business stage and the revenues and other aspects of what you have made. The fair value of share comes to 31 rupees. So the 9 rupees is the tax that under the Income Tax Act, the difference between 40 and 31 is called the amount in excess of fair value is taxed as the angel tax in the hands of the startup. That means the startup company has to pay and not the investor. So the investor pays you 40 rupees, but 9 rupees, on 9 rupees, you will have to pay a tax of 27,000 rupees. In this example, if you have issued 10,000 shares to an angel investor A, and on that, the 90,000 rupees becomes taxable value and 27,000 rupees you will have to pay. This is the angel tax that the government of India had introduced some time back. Of course, the startup community vehemently opposed this. And now, so if you are a startup registered with Startup India, government of India have exempted this tax up to a certain threshold limit. So this is a very important aspect when you raise money that any promoter of a startup should consider, to take registration, proper registrations. And why this is important is that all this have to be done in a prescribed timeline. If you miss the timeline and later on there is no backdated compliance that is possible nowadays in an online world. So these aspects taxation aspects have to be considered very in a minute and clean manner, so that you conserve cash and take maximum benefits that are available. The next aspect is under indirect tax. One should do proper registration and Goods and Services Tax Act, because there are a lot of government initiatives that one can take, where in terms of refund of input GST what you pay, if you are an exporter and if you don't have any liability to be discharged on GST front, the government will refund you the input tax what you paid on your raw materials and other services, what you make use of to generate your output material or service. So this is very important, because in terms of financing and funding, this amount could be substantial actually. Where what you pay as input tax, if the government refunds, it reduces your cost of manufacturing or cost of product, and it also generates you money, and which can be used again in the business. So it's a very good important aspect to be considered, to have proper registrations under indirect tax and work on seeking those refunds. There are also some export schemes if you are an exporter of service or product that is available. One example is Services Export Scheme of India, where SEI is what it is called as. If you are exporter of service and if you are not claiming refund of GST, government provides for certain category of services a certain depending on depending on what kind of service you are exporting, 5 to 10% of the value of your exports as a support or a refund for the business or a startup. So this amount could be very substantial. This also is very good planning that can be done, in terms of raising further amounts of money. So a very good tax planning will help a startup to conserve cash and also to flow back money into your own business without going into further, series of fundraising. So a good tax planning leaves you with good amount of money. That's what I would emphasize here. Moving on, it is very important for a startup who seek money to have some sort of exit planning for the people from whom they seek money, because no one will give money unless they are very clear when they'll get back the money. It is not required in a very clear manner, at the stage of raising funds, but typically anyone who puts money will ask what is the exit plan for them. So one should be very ready with the answer. These are the various exit plans that is available. Of course, an IPO or a listing is a very long 5 to 8 years kind of. Once your business becomes successful, you can raise funds through public and give an exit to your existing investor. What an existing investor will do at that point in time is that they will sell out in your IPO and they will exit and make money there. The other option is if your business is doing very extremely well and you have generated sufficient cash on your balance sheet, what you can do is you can give an exit option to your investor by way of a buyback of their shares by the company itself. So a person who put at 40 rupees, a 10 rupees share at 50 rupees, if you buy back after 4 years at 400 rupees or 500 rupees, that is a very good return in terms of investment what they would have got. So a buyback of share is an option. These are very technical. Of course, once you become a promoter of a business, your financial advisors would give this. But as a promoter of a business, you should at least have a fair idea or some sort of idea of what kind of exits an investor can have, and you can propose these things to them. The third is a merger and acquisition. Suppose after a couple of years, your business is very successful, a larger player in the same area would come and acquire you, and that time, the existing player investor would get exit. The other exit is further funding. If somebody has done angel investing or early stage funding, when you go for a series B or C, the earlier the person who has funded you may want to exit. So the subsequent guy who is funding will take over from the earlier investor and give an exit to the early stage funding person. So this is also a very good option. Of course, the next is management buyout. That means if you have become very successful and you have made enormous amount of money, you can give an exit to your existing investor by buying his part of share. That means you make money and you buy out their share and then give them an exit. So these are the various possible exit options. Why this is important for a startup is that anyone who wants to give money definitely wants to know what kind of return that they will make in 3 to 5 years and what is their exit route. It is not as if that they will give money and they're stuck eternally with you. No one will give money if somebody is stuck eternally with you with no returns to them. So it is a very important aspect to be considered. Not a great length of seriousness at the time of raising money, but one should have a fair amount of idea as to what kind of exits that they can provide for a startup financing person. The next, moving on, I thought let me cover some important aspects of registrations. Generally, many startups, what I have seen is they undermine the registrations they would like to they have to take, and they don't consider this that much important, and they start doing the business. And once you are into business, sometimes certain registrations cannot be done from a retrospective effect, and you tend to lose out the benefits of what is offered under law. So it is very important that these aspects are considered. Any startup today, they should definitely register with Startup India. So I have given the website detail here, startupindia.gov.in. It's a single platform provided by Government of India, where if you register as a startup by meeting their conditions, either as a LLP or a private company is allowed to register as a startup. And if the conditions are met, and if you are able to register as a startup, you get a lot of exemptions and benefits. You get exemption from angel tax under income tax. You get exemption from paying income tax on your profits for 3 out of 7 years. You get self-certification possibility for various labor laws. And you can also, if your startup fails, you can wind up very easily also. And if you are a startup registered entity, even when government procures services or products, and your service or product happens to be that, government gives priority to startups to procure what they require, services or products. So these kind of benefits you get if you are registered with startup. The second most is GST. You will have to register yourself under goods and services tax. Today, if you are going to make revenue in excess of 20 lakh rupees or 40 lakh rupees, depending on the state where you operate, it is very important that you take registration or GST, because one is compliance is mandatory. If you don't comply tomorrow, you'll end up paying a lot of late fees and interest and other aspects. So, and also, as I explained in the previous slide, there are some refunds and other benefits linked to these kind of registration. So that's very important. The next is IEC. IEC is the export and import number registration. If you are a startup who is rendering service to persons or worldwide outside India, so it's very important that you register as the export and import. Take these numbers for your smooth operations. Otherwise, your operations will get hampered and can get delayed. The next registration, what I would emphasize is that MSME registration, that is micro, small, and medium enterprises. In these today's times of pandemic, you must have, I don't know if you guys have followed, the finance minister made a series of press briefing when this pandemic started, all concentrated towards giving benefit to an MSME. Recently, the government have tweaked the definition of MSME, that is micro, small, and medium enterprises, up to, let's say, an investment of 20 crores and turnover up to 100 crores can come under the MSME definition. Earlier, this limit was limited only up to 1 crore or a 5 crore turnover. Now they've expanded up to 100 crore. Depending on what threshold you are there, you can either be a micro enterprise or a small enterprise or a medium enterprise. So what is the benefit of registering under this is that if you are a MSME entity, the people whom you sell your product or service are obliged under MSME law to pay you within 45 days. So you get your cash flows very early. Then if government is procuring any kind of service or product, and if that is you are an MSME and you are doing those kind of products or service, government gives priority to MSMEs in their tenders and other things. So you get business there, and you get priority funding and priority business. The next is that you get funding, and it is all the more important in these times of pandemic, and the various schemes have been floated. You get interest at a very low rate. Government gives interest subvention of 2%, and banks also give interest. Typically, if it is 10%, the MSME would get at 7% or even lower. So this is very good planning for fundraising for a startup. So I suggest whatever stage of stage that you are there as a startup, please take registration as a MSME. There are a lot of benefits. Interest subvention. One of the major benefit of a MSME registration is that you get collateral free or security free loan from banks. Banks do not insist on, if you're a promoter, generally what I've seen is that promoters give their father's house or their own house as a collateral or a security to the bank to fund their business. And if the business incurs a loss, they lose their house and personal assets also. So if you're an MSME registered entity or a startup, you don't have to give any collateral or a security generally. But this benefit is available in many cases. And the last but not the least, for a MSME, the various registrations, various schemes are available under various Government of India ministries, where they give some sort of grant or a subsidy for various MSME. Depending on what field you are, if you're an EV space, it could be a very good beneficial thing to do MSME registration and opt for various schemes of government. And last but not the least, you will have to also explore registering yourself under various legal laws. This is very important because it generates cash flow, it saves your cash outgo, and it gives you a lot of benefit. So one should consider, if you are doing a startup, to have these kind of registrations which help you in your business. And finally, in terms of coming to conclusion, I've spoken at length now. I don't know whether I've covered what is required of you. In terms of conclusions, my conclusion, what I would say is there are many startups, that come up. In today's world, even I have some 10 ideas, and my friend Sanjeev has about 10 ideas. So there are many ideas that are there in people's mind, and everyone would want to do startup and come up with their own entity. So there are many startups that can come, but only those startups, will survive who have a very sustainable business idea and who do it in a very methodical manner. And it is very important that constant promoter participation and involvement is there in business as well as in finance and finance planning. Even if you are a non-finance person, I would encourage you to involve with your finance professional thoroughly, understand the business plan, understand the numbers, ask questions, and get involved yourself. And it is said that finance is the lifeblood of an entity. So without blood, nothing can work. So don't undermine the requirement of money. I have seen many startups who take very lightly that we will raise money later and this, and they get into a lot of troubles. And finally, the cost escalation happens, time is wasted. So don't underestimate the requirement of money at every stage. Plan well in advance and go for it. And then, because finance mismanagement leads to losses and eventually sometimes may lead to closure of the business also. So it's equally important in today's time also to give very good, attention to compliance, because there is no backdated compliance possible. So finance as a term encompasses compliance also. So I would urge any startup entrepreneur to consider compliance as a very key part of running their business. Don't undermine the compliance requirements. And the startup entrepreneurs should be very mindful of all these aspects. And start your business with all these aspects in mind. Take the help of a good finance professional, because you cannot have the knowledge of all of these aspects. If someone is there in your family who has done business and who can give you some advice, it is good. It is not a bad idea to take their advice. Have a financial advisor on your board as an advisor, not as a board member. You can have as an advisor or a freelance advisor, a good, thorough finance professional. It is not a bad idea to keep on timely, to take their advice from time to time, and make your business successful. With that, I would come to an end of my presentation for the day. Thank you very much, and I'm open for any question and answer.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. It's a really wonderful session, and we started with basics of the startups and how we should start, and then how the evaluation process take place at various stages, and all. It's a really wonderful session. Now the session is open for question and answer. Please, participants.
So I see a question, somebody has put it in the chat actually. So at what stage we should go to patents in startups? Yes, this is a very important aspect. Because it was typically finance, I didn't cover this intellectual property related matter. One should consider at a very early stage itself, you will have to patent your idea lest it is not copied by anyone. So it's very important aspect that once the idea is stage where it is patentable, you go for it, apply for patent, and hold a patent for your idea, because a patent is also a saleable product. Tomorrow you can sell your patent itself. I have my own friend who, at the idea stage itself, he sold out for a very good amount of money.
Yeah. Anyone?
Before ending, I just
Yes,
am
sir.
interrupting Sandeep Garu.
Yes,
I
sir.
request Narsimurthy Garu, can we place the same presentation in our website?
Oh, yes, of course, definitely. This presentation I will mail it to you. You can put it in your site. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Because people may want to see again. Because we need
Yes,
your
yes.
permission to keep on our website. That's the reason.
No. Some material I have taken from Google. Yeah. But it can be put, no
whenever
problem.
you are taken from Google, I could listen from you that you have mentioned that you are taken from Google. Therefore,
Yeah, I mean, that is basically the
problem will come.
Yeah, basically the explanation part was mine, but the chart I found it to be very nicely depicted. So charts I copied from Google Images and put it there.
Yeah, true. But you have mentioned the same thing in your talk. Therefore, there will not be any kind of copyright or any other issues will not come to us. Therefore, that's
Fine.
the reason.
No, there is no issue in giving it to your people.
Okay.
Thank you very much on that. And it is a really wonderful talk by you. Over to Sandeep.
Yes. Further questions, participants?
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I just wanted to know, what is the success rate of startups in electrical sector? Not as a product. If we are going for startups in services in electrical sector, what will be the success rate according to the current scenario?
I don't know the number because I'm not doing research on this electrical. Are you talking about electrical vehicle or electrical manufacturing of electrical items or those kind of things? What is it actually? Is it electric vehicle thing?
No, basically about the broad range about electrical sector. If we are going for the services side rather than a product, so what will be this?
No, you can see. I don't know the number for the existing guys who are in this field, electrical space. Either in terms of, what you are saying is that you would want to do a service as a business in electrical field. Actually, if you are that the thing. See any business. If you have seen my presentation, if you have if you are a good, business plan and this thing, the success rate should be definitely 100%. But I don't have the number for a historical number for the businesses in this field actually. But I don't see any reason if there are good revenues that are coming in, why there should not be any success.
Yes. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I'm having one doubt myself as Sridhar. So my question is like, sir, as far as registration under Startup India program is concerned,
Okay.
which one is advisable, sir, like registering as a partnership company or private limited company or limited liability company?
See, as I showed in my presentation, you cannot register on your startup unless you are a LLP or a company, private limited company. So you have to be necessarily as a limited liability partnership or a private company. Only these two forms of organizations are allowed to be registered on Startup India. You can go to the website, it's clearly mentioned there.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
One more question in chat box.
Yeah, how long the startup tag will continue for the firm and when does it change from the startup tag to a company? The startup, there is no, as far as I see, I mean, there's no legal definition of a startup, I feel. I mean, there are some indications. If you see under the Income Tax Act, they give benefit for out of 7 years, first 7 years of a startup, 3 years. So I presume that first 7 years you can call yourself as a startup. Under Startup India, I don't know whether they have a definition of a startup. Of course, they have a definition as saying that what is a startup who has got this much amount of capital and this much amount of turnover. Suppose if you cross 100 crore turnover, I think you will be out of startup definition. So this is what is the last information that I have. A startup is one who have a turnover of up to 100 crores. Recently, they made it as 250 crores. I'm not very sure whether it is 100 crore or 250 crore. So in terms of an indication under Income Tax Act or under the Startup India policy, I think you are out of a startup tag if you meet the threshold, turnover threshold limit. 100 crore or 250, 100 crore net worth and 250 crore turnover, if I vaguely remember. So to answer your question, if you meet that threshold limit, probably you are out of startup tag.
Any questions, please?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I want to make a product is startup like battery.
Okay.
Just for local batteries, sir, like autos or lorries and two-wheeler bikes like that. Local, I want to make local product. So,
okay.
You were discussing about IPO, MSME, some schemes that and all. So once we settle, once we have a good name, then only we can go for a public offering, initial public offering. But initially to start company, like if I want to put initial cost around 5 to 6 crores, so how much can I get? Can I get from startups or government of India? Like any help from government of India?
See, if your business project, I mean, if your project cost is in the range of 5 to 6 crores, Government of India will not 5 to 6 crores. If under the various schemes that they have, what I've heard is at best you can get 15 lakh to 25 lakh rupees as a support. Suppose in Karnataka, if you see, I know that under the Karnataka startup policy, they fund up to 15 lakhs, no questions asked. If your startup is selected, 15 lakhs they'll give you. So likewise in Andhra, or it depends on each state government, what is the policy, but definitely it is not in the range of 5 to 6 crores. It is into a couple of lakh of rupees you will get as a support. So you will have to put your own funds, and if you are not able to raise equity, you go for a loan. You go for a loan and from a bank. So if you are MSME registered entity, with no security. Nowadays, up to 10 lakh rupees, you have this loan called Mudra scheme or Mudra loan scheme or something like that under the Prime Minister's initiative. A bank will give a 10 lakh rupees of loan with no security or a collateral. But if you want to raise about 5 to 6 crores, I think you will have to give some security, either the land or building, where you are doing business if you are owning it, and then either go for loan or go for angel investing with somebody. You will have to pitch your idea with some high net worth individual or angel investor who's convinced you are with your business plan about your profitability and who can put money.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Sir, one more question, chat box.
Yeah. Okay, what is it? Good evening, sir. What are the small and common mistakes done by entrepreneurs during early stage of establishing a startup which can lead to some unexpected consequences? How can we avoid them? Yes, of course. I think if you have heard about the entire presentation, I think indirectly I've covered what are the mistakes. When I say that you should do this, that is also don'ts. I mean, don't forget to do these things. Typically, I would start with registrations. A non-finance, I mean, the person who starts business, I have seen in my experience that they underestimate or undermine the registration aspects of business. That is number one. So that will lead to compliance cost and issues with compliance, and eventually they'll pay up some penalty and other things. So don't underestimate the registrations that you will have to take, because you will lose benefits. Also, you will pay some cost in terms of non-compliance. The second is the typical mistake what any startup entrepreneur will do is the legal structuring of it, whether to do an LLP or a company. Eventually, if you want to raise money from the market, unless you are a private company, no one will put money, because LLP is a personalized thing of partners. So only a private company will be able to attract money from the market. So then people will tend to lose time, to convert their LLP into a private company. This is one mistake that what I see is the thing that they make. The third major mistake what I have seen the startup guys make is that in terms of estimating their working capital. So when you raise money, you should put in a very transparent manner all of the requirements that you have, and you cannot do a half-hearted effort in estimating your working capital. So if you underestimate your working capital is the money that you require to run your business in a day-to-day manner, to pay your salaries to your employees or staff, to pay your rentals, to purchase your raw material. All this encompasses working capital, to pay your telephone bill, to pay your for your operations. And typically, generally, what I see is people tend to underestimate this the money that they require, and they'll get into big problems, and then finally in time they will not be able to raise money, and many cases the business goes to a stop and comes to a standstill. So I would emphasize very importantly on working capital, and of course to an extent on tax planning as the mistakes that they make. Because if you don't do a proper tax planning and working capital planning, your business will go into serious issues in terms of cash losses and cash outgo and losing benefits.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
What are the general these conditions put by these venture capitalists? Actually, like banks, they put interest and then security deposit, whatever. Typically, what kind of conditions these venture capitalists put?
See, if you are going for a bank funding, the major things are that you'll have to give a collateral, security, and no bank will give you 100% funding. We know that in our own case, if you go to a two-wheeler purchase or a car purchase, there is no 100% funding available. Of course, sometime back there was market value funding as a concept for a car purchase. So this is true for a business also, that if you are going for a loan funding, depending on your background, promoter background, there's all that. Sometimes you may have to put 50%. If your project cost is 100 rupees, only bank will fund 50 rupees, and balance 50 rupees you will have to, bring. Suppose if you talk of one of the questions that came, 5 to 6 crore of this thing, depending on our own background and security and all, you may only get 2.5 crores as loan. That is one part. Secondly, to answer your question on the venture capitalists, they will do a thorough. No one will put money unless they are convinced with your business plan that they are going to make money and the business is profitable. Of course, that is not guaranteed at the stage of startup. There are many people who have put money and eventually startups have wound up, and many venture capitalists have lost money also. They will factor in all that. Main thing is that they will take a board seat, what I have seen, or an advisory position board on the thing. They will control your constitution document. Generally, it is called Articles of Association. So they will put a lot of terms and conditions where for any major decision, you will have to go back and take their concurrence. This they will put it in the term sheet itself, and eventually which they will incorporate in the Articles of Association itself, where if you want to purchase a major asset, you want to do a major business decision, you want to expand your operations beyond a certain threshold, financial threshold limit of say 50 lakhs or 1 crore, hiring and firing some key employees, all this can only be done with their concurrence, to give an example. So these are the terms and conditions with which they will come when they do funding.
Okay. Suppose if they fund and then if they later stage, if they drop their funding, then what will be our situation then?
Yes, this is a good question. Actually, as I told, suppose if they commit for, let's say, 25 crores of funding in a business, they will not give it in one go. And it will be definitely in tranches of 5 crore or 10 crore or like that, and milestone basis. If you get it in one go, you are extremely lucky. I mean, you are taking money and you are going to use it in the business. Either it is successful or it will go fat. So that's a risk that they'll take. So that's why definitely they will not give it in one go. There have been many practical instances where, a venture capitalist firm has come saying that I'll give you 25 crores in 3 installments. After 2 installments, suppose 1 year time has passed and you have not met your threshold and they refuse to, fund. This also can happen. The only option then is to, for the promoter, is to go for another person and exit this, or do convincing, some hard negotiation and explain why, one has not met their milestone and other things. I have seen both things happen in practical life, where the promoter is not able to see eye to eye with the existing guy. The existing guy, initially, though they were convinced, after a year they are not convinced. They don't want to put, risk any further capital. So they have exited, and these people have successfully spoken to some other people and convinced, or the existing guy is also getting convinced with proper explanation why the business is not going in the right direction. Generally, no one will, once they have put money, no one will, leave you midway, because they are already, the stake is there. That also they are going to lose.
Yeah. So I think no questions. Is there any further questions, please? Sir, any feedback, sir, Dr. Lakshman Narayan, sir?
There is no feedback from me. It is a really excellent topic, what exactly earlier also is told, and the people should really go step by step on this. And not one day immediately one can take a decision. I think we need Narasimha Gari help for in case for anybody come out that they will want to start up a startup. We need his help continuously for at least for some more time until everybody grows to that stage. Really, I thank him for patience. And the very beginning when he mentioned, he said that we will cut short the talk little lesser time. But I think it's for him. He has covered more than 1.5 hour time. Really, I'm really grateful to him on that.
Yes,
sir. I thought I can finish early.
Yeah, thank you very much. And in case there is no questions, somebody giving vote of thanks. Yes. After that, we have Anthem sir, Sandeep Garu.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Sir, yes. I have a small question. Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
So my question is on what parameters the venture capitalists mainly focus upon when they are investing in startups, sir? What are the main typical parameters out of which they have to be benefited, right, sir? Venture capitalists.
Yes. I mean, see, the main parameter is itself your business plan itself. That is the document. I strongly emphasize, if you go and ask money with anyone, you will have to convince them about your business plan. First is that they have to, get convinced about your product or service or your idea. And the second is you should approach the right venture capitalist. as I said, some people are only in funding FMCG sector. Some people are funding only EV this thing. Some people are funding only a pharma sector. So once you are in the right sector and you approach the right guys, and if they are okay, if they're convinced with your idea, they will only emphasize about what kind of money that is required, what is the return that they will make, and what is the exit they get. I think these are the three parameters which they look. Of course, it is a given that any startup promoter has to be transparent, honest. Those kind of things need not be explained. These are a given. If you are dishonest and if you are not, are transparent in your business, I mean, definitely no one will fund you, or those who are funded will take you to court and those kind of things. So I'm not elaborating on those kind of things. The promoter honesty, the promoter knowledge of the business, seriousness, these are all a given thing. But I would say that they would emphasize on the exit, what kind of return they can make, what is the exit, and what are the risks that are there in the business. Only then they will put, once they are clear about the idea, only then they will put money.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Now I request Dr. Shankar to propose the formal vote of thanks to the session.
Yeah, good evening to all the dignitaries. So, I, Shankar Peddapati, happy to propose vote of thanks in this event. First, I thank Mr. T. Garu for delivering very informative lecture on finance for startups. I thank Dr. Lakshmi Narayan Garu, Chair IEEE Vizag section, Dr. CSP Rao, Dr. NIT Andhra Pradesh for continuous encouragement in organizing a series of lectures on electric vehicles. I thank Dr. Dinesh Shankar Reddy, Registrar from NIT Andhra Pradesh. I thank IEEE PELS, IAS, PES Joint Chapter members Dr. Sandeep, Dr. Balu, Dr. Ashwini, and Dr. Vakula for supporting in organizing this event. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
And tomorrow there is a continuous lecture on developments in the EV sector. So I request all the participants to join tomorrow. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sandeep Garu, please
Yes, sir.
stop recording, Andy. Then we can play
Yes.
national anthem.